Welcome to the VedaFoods Health Show with Dr. J. Apte. And so we've been talking about Ayurveda and the doshas, and the last two episodes we've talked about Vata and Pitta. So today we're going to talk about Kapha. So why don't you go back and explain a little bit what is a dosha, and then we'll go into Kapha.
Okay. So thank you, Carly. I really feel good about talking about Ayurveda and educating all our listeners about it. So we were talking about Ayurveda looks at not only at the physical body, but the energies behind that body. That three energies which control all the functions in the body. And those three energies are exactly like in the nature. So if you see in the whole universe, three energies making the change in the seasons and all are the sun, the moon, and the wind, right? So wind energy we talk as a Vata dosha, energy of movement and actions and our nervous system. Then we talked about Pitta dosha, the sun in the nature, that heat always helps to digest and transform everything. And now today is the time to talk about Kapha dosha, the third element, that is the water element related to moon. Because you will see that according to the moon, the wave, the high tide and low tide in the ocean and all, it changes a lot. So moon is related to the water element, and in Ayurveda, that water element we call as a Kapha dosha. So Kapha dosha's main function is to build new cells, because our body is using all the cells as energy, and the cells break down and body is building new cells. So the Kapha dosha's function is to build new cells. Only they cannot stop by just creating new cells. They have to nourish new cells and new tissues and lubricating all the joints and making sure everybody, each and every cell and tissue and organ and overall us are very happy and content. And that's how Kapha personality is also very loving, nurturing, caring, and making sure everybody is happy. They don't like people to get angry, frustrated, anxious. They just feel everybody should feel like more grounded, more clear, more happy, enjoying their life and all that. So that's how Kapha personality is. So generally, if you see people who are kind of round face and big eyes and long, thick, curly hair, overall body is, they look a little bit chubby, or full-bodied people and all, they are Kapha people. But always kind of that roundedness or sweetness is built in those people, because that's how their personality is. And what they have to do, overall their energy level is high, their endurance is very high. So we talk about ever ready bat, it keeps on going and going and going. So Kapha people love to keep on doing the task for long period of time because of their strong strength and also their endurance and all that. But then what happens, Kapha people also have to maintain their balance, because if they start eating very heavy foods and, like for example, very sweet foods, think about all our breakfast foods are like a sweet cereal with a lot of sugar in it, and cold milk, and eating a donut, eating pancakes or waffles with a lot of syrup on it, or eating in the evening, at night, having scoops of ice cream and cookies, all the junk food. So those foods aggravate this kapha dosha in the body, and as a result, we become overweight and obese and all that. And that's why you will see our major health issue is the obesity and the diseases causing because of obesity and diabetes and many metabolic syndromes we talk about. So it is very important that we maintain that balance. So when kapha people have increases, kapha dosha increases by eating very heavy foods and sweet foods, lot of salt, because salt also makes us retain water. Also very salty food like salsa and chips, or Italian food with lot of tomato sauce in it. Eating lot of yogurt. I've seen people eating yogurt all the time. But yogurt is cold, yogurt is heavy, it is sticky, mucousy, exactly like kapha dosha. So it aggravates kapha dosha. And then the result is people get like allergies and congestion and cough and cold, and they start gaining weight, and then their joints hurt. The mind becomes very dull and lethargic and all that. And then what happens? People end up taking medicine for all their problems. Because of congestion, they start taking antihistamine. For their joint, they start taking pain medication. Because of their dull mind and depression, they start taking antidepressant. So they start taking like a symptomatic treatment. But here in Ayurveda, what we talk about is to create that balance. So for Kapha dosha people, we always recommend is to eat more lighter food. Like for example, popcorn being very light, but don't sprinkle a lot of salt on it, but sprinkle some Mrs. Dash, some spices on it, little chili flakes and cumin seed powder, and all those spices will help to reduce kapha dosha. It improves their digestion because kapha people always complain that they have like a digestion is very weak and my stomach feels so heavy when I eat any food. So we generally recommend those people to spice up their life. So adding a little bit ginger and garlic and chilies or chili powder or fresh chilies, then cloves, or yeah, you may have heard Indian masala called garam masala. That garam masala also has hot pungent spices on this and all. So any which way they can lighten themselves is always good.
So two things I'd like to address. One
Yes.
is
Mhm.
yogurt. I think a lot of people don't realize that most of yogurt it's so loaded with sugar because they're not getting. So a lot of things I like to tell my clients to do is to buy the like plain vanilla, and then they add their own fresh fruit,
Yes.
and they can add like a little bit of honey, or they can add stevia, so they're not getting all that sugar. I mean, you look at like a little 8-ounce container of yogurt, and it's like got like almost 25 to 35 grams of sugar.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I know we're always talking about sugar and diabetes, and I think that's a huge one. And another thing that you were mentioning, which I found too, is a lot of people that get, like you said, the colds and everything,
Yes.
doing a lot of dairy products creates a person's body produces an overabundance of mucus.
Yes.
And we found that if we took away the milk, right, took away the dairy products, they wouldn't be getting colds all the time, especially like little kids. You see them with constant colds and their nose is running. That we took away the dairy products and replaced them with, like, yogurt is okay, but it's, we can use the Greek yogurt, which is a different component, and took away the dairy products and replaced them with almond milk and all these things which are lower in sugar. That really helped. So what are your thoughts on that? And then I'll ask you another question that I have.
Okay, it's a good question, Carly, because what happens, I can help people to just get rid of their confusion about milk and yogurt and all these kind of things. Okay, so first let's talk about milk. What happens, people always drink cold milk. They just get it out of refrigerator, pour on their cereal or give their children to drink that cold milk. But more than milk is the coldness in the milk that causes more mucus and congestion. So if we start warming that milk, in India or in many other countries, we always boil the milk and then let it cool down to lukewarm, and then we drink that milk. If you have this congestion problem, I would also recommend adding like a pinch of turmeric. Remember that yellow spice we were talking about, and also pinch of dry ginger powder. Ginger powder also being improving digestion and being hot in taste, it just takes away all these cold and congestion problems of milk. So then this milk becomes medicated milk and it is warm in nature. And then children can drink that or people can use that and it will not produce the mucus. Now, why Ayurveda is very high on milk? Because milk is a complete food. Milk has some protein in it. Milk has carb in it. It has sugar in it. It also has good fat in it. So when you drink a warm cup of milk in the morning or evening, it really nurtures you. But here what we do, we drink so much cold milk that causes the problem. So I mentioned about adding pinch of ginger powder or pinch of turmeric and warming that milk. And then people will not get like cold and congestion and lot of mucus. The other thing you also rightfully mentioned about yogurt has so much sugar in it. But what I would recommend, look at even the consistency of the yogurt. Consistency of the yogurt is also very heavy and sticky. and mucousy and cold. It is exactly like the phlegm or mucus in our system. So the best way to eat yogurt is like, lassi, right? When you go to Indian restaurant, they always serve you lassi. But instead of drinking mango lassi, it's just the plain lassi. You can add cilantro. You can add just tiny pinch of salt. You can add cumin seed powder. If you are used to Indian spices, then you can add pinch of hing, and that becomes again the medicator, kind of herbalized or spiced buttermilk. And that buttermilk is called nectar on the earth. It's like amrut on the earth. So it helps you to improve your digestion. It helps you to absorb the food better, and it really fills you up. So sometimes if you want to skip your dinner, then you can drink like a 1 or 2 glasses of this buttermilk, and you will feel so full and you will feel nourished. And next morning when you wake up, you will feel very light and more energetic because it's not very heavy thing for your system to digest.
Now, what is your opinion on kefir versus yogurt? Or, so a lot of people, there's a lot of probiotics in kefir. So
Yes.
where does Ayurveda stand with kefir?
Yeah, kefir is very similar to buttermilk, and it has all those bacteria in it. These days we are talking a lot about bacteria because in our gut there are like millions of bacteria, and buttermilk always helps to create the healthy flora of those bacteria in our system. So what I'm saying, and buttermilk, when you churn yogurt, if you take 1 cup of yogurt, add 2 cups of water, blend it in the blender or churn it. If you have electrical that stirrer, you can use that, and you can add just pinch of salt and cumin seed, hing, fresh cilantro and all. And that spiced buttermilk really, really helps a lot of people to feel nourished. And it is room temperature, it's not cold. So yogurt is cold, it has loaded with sugar. And the consistency of the yogurt is also mucousy. But in buttermilk, because we add water, it becomes very thin. It becomes liquid. It's room temperature, and it has all the spices in it. So it is really becomes very appetizing. Okay.
So the other thing I was really curious about, because this is a big topic, is first I want to say one more thing is I want to encourage people to get non-GMO milk, because obviously if they're just drinking milk and it's full of antibiotics and growth hormones, that's not the best thing. Especially talking about Ayurveda and health, I just wanted to give our audience a reminder to drink non-GMO, non-hormones, etc. Health foods in general. So it's not just milk, all foods.
All the food. I'm very high on non-GMO and organic food.
Exactly.
Because non-GMO is really scary thing because we modify all those foods and our personality will even change, So that's not good. And even organic food is the best because in our regular fertilizers and things, there are so many chemicals which are carcinogenic. And on the other side, we are spending so much time and money and efforts to find a cure for cancer. So we have to make sure that we have to stay away from all these carcinogenic chemicals in our body.
Exactly. So I just wanted to put that out there for the audience. And I meant when I was talking about the milk, the one that has no growth hormone and no antibiotics, and when I was talking about everything else, non-GMO. So to get to my next question that I was going to say before I got on our little venture there, salt. Because a lot of people don't realize there's different types of salt. There's, the pink
Himalayan salt,
mineralized salt versus white salt, which most people don't know is bleached, and it doesn't really give you any nutrients, and it is toxic versus the Himalayan mineralized salt. Yeah. And so the difference between that, and so we're always saying don't do salt, don't do salt, don't do salt. However, there's a big debate about I use a pink mineralized salt, and it doesn't retain, so it's a different type of, obviously, so it's not sodium per se like that. So I'd like to talk a little bit about salt, because I think that's a really important subject. So you have people that go, okay, salt is bad, 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 and yes, I agree the white salt is, because it is bleached and all that. So let's talk about a little bit about salts, and what is your take on mineralized, like Himalayan salt?
Yeah. The first thing is, So salt is very essential for the body. Okay, so we always talk about so eating salt is bad, but you cannot avoid or you cannot completely skip adding salt in the body because all our nerve conduction, our muscle contraction, everything depends on the salt. But we need very tiny amount of salt. We need almost like only 1 teaspoon of salt in a whole day in all the foods we consume. But people end up eating like 10 times or 15 times. Think about when people go to this fast food restaurants and when they're serving fries there, they're just shaking salt on those fries. And because their job is only for people to eat more chips or more fries and get more money. But at the result, what happens? We end up eating so much salt. And this regular salt is not good at all. It has so many chemicals and all that. When you mentioned about Himalayan salt, yes, along with the salt, it has so many other minerals because it is produced from the natural water and all that. And that's what those body needs those minerals. And so main function of salt is to maintain the mineral balance in the body. So this good quality of salts are good. But always remember, even good salt, we should not be consuming too much. Okay. Then in Indian store, there is another variety you will get. It is called Sindhav salt. Generally, the effect on the salt on our body is very heating. But this Sindhav salt is a little cooling, and that's what we always recommend, especially for people who are very hot, like Pitta people. We always recommend them to eat Sindhav salt. But generally, if you are using mineral salt, that's Himalayan pink salt, that will be great. But always remember, consume less amount of salt because salt makes you retain water and your blood pressure rises and the body swells up and your joints start hurting. Your mind becomes very kind of sluggish and lethargic. So you need to consume less amount of salt, but salt is very essential for the body.
And the one thing I've also found when I've had clients switch from white salt to Himalayan salt, they use less because it tastes so different.
Yeah.
The white salt has a very different taste, and the Himalayan salt, it has such a richer taste. You don't need a lot. So they wind up reducing their salt intake dramatically, and they're getting mineralizations, and it's natural. And I'm actually going to go find the salt you're talking about. I'd love to try that. I'm always open to exploring new foods.
Exploring new things. Yeah, but Carly, since we are on this salt topic, I just want to tell people that when you are using this Himalayan mineral salt at home, but at the same time you have to make a effort that when you buy anything, you should buy unsalted. Because if you buy butter, it is salted butter. You buy foods that are loaded with salt. And they don't use Himalayan salt. They are going to use regular salt. So just buy everything unsalted, even nuts, a can of nuts. It is loaded with salt. You have to make an effort to buy unsalted nuts, unsalted butter, everything unsalted. So you have a control how much salt you are going to put and which salt you are going to put on your food so that your body will get it.
That's a great tip because it's true. When they're buying salted foods, it's the chemical salt. Unless it says on their Himalayan salt. But even then, even if it says Himalayan salt, again, you don't know how much, and it's usually a lot. So if we just go unsalted, we have the choice to add our type of salt and how much. So that's a wonderful tip. I'm really glad we talked about salt, though, because that's a huge topic. And I'm also really glad we talked about the yogurts and kefir, because I think those are things that people are always really confused about. It's like, don't avoid salt completely, do salt, don't drink milk, do drink, all these things. So I'm glad we addressed that today.
Yeah. Another thing I just want to mention, we were talking about Kapha Dosha, and the qualities of Kapha Dosha are cold and heavy and moist. Think about the springtime. The weather is very moist, there is a lot of moisture, lot of water in the environment. The weather is kind of a little bit cold and not very cold like winter, but it's kind of little coldish or coolish. And because of that moisture content, it is also heavy. And that's why millions of people get this congestion and cough and cold and runny eyes and watery nose and all that. So when we are talking about this cutting down on salt and cutting down on sugar and all that, So naturally your body will produce less mucus and you will not get all these kind of allergy kind of things. So you can prevent most of your allergy problems during springtime by making those changes in the diet. And here I want to talk about cold water because everybody drinks cold water. Suppose, Carly, you have cold and your nose is running, your eyes are running, and you are taking anti-allergy medication with ice cold water. Do you think your cold is going to get better? No, because you are just adding so much cold water in your system and you already have cold. So cold and cold water is going to aggravate your cold. And so that's why drinking warm water or at least room temperature water is very, very important. Because think about our digestion. All these digestive enzymes are very acidic in nature. So Ayurvedically we call that it's a digestive fire. And what happens when you are constantly putting that fire off by drinking ice cold water? So your digestion becomes weak. It's hampered. It's not going to digest food well. It's not going to absorb well, and you will have digestive issues. So it is very important, listeners, and especially during springtime. So you should be drinking warm water, lukewarm water, or at least room temperature water, and stay away from ice. When you are out during summertime, like 100 degrees outside, and you are just jogging and running, and you want to cool your body, still don't drink so much ice. Maybe one cube will be enough. But especially during springtime, you should not be drinking any cold water or cold orange juice or any cold liquids for that matter.
And that's always a fascinating topic. I find the hardest time, I've never liked cold water. And I'm always arguing with people. It's like, no, I please keep the pitcher out on the counter. Or when you go to a store, I go get the bottle from the shelf. And when you're out at restaurants, even though you ask for no ice, the water still tends to be chilly because they'll
very cold. You cannot even touch that.
It's like, no, I don't want you pouring and not getting ice. I want just water with lemon, please. And it's always very interesting. It's so hard to actually get just room temperature water, and it's just fascinating. And it always is just. I've never felt good drinking anything cold. It's just something. I don't know. I just intuitively have always been drawn to warm liquids and room temperature. So yeah, it's fascinating. So
and do you know that around the world, you have to ask for ice because they will serve you room temperature water. And here only in the US, you have to ask for no ice. That is, you want room temperature water.
No, it's
because
incredible.
everything is so cold, and that really causes the problem.
So what I'd like to end with is we kind of talked all around a lot of things, but I'd like to go back to kapha for a minute. And can you give out like 3 herbs that are really good for the kapha dosha?
Yes, I will be happy to. The first one and my favorite is the fresh ginger root. And I always tell people to drink this ginger tea. And I will give you that recipe when we just kind of have those notes and all. Like 1 glass of warm water, add 1 tablespoon honey in it. Just grate fresh ginger root, just a tiny amount, like 1 or 2 pinches, and squeeze half a lemon or 1/4 lemon, depending on the size. And that ginger tea will just make you feel so energetic, and your congestion will go away, and your mind and all your senses will open up, and you will feel lighter. And do you know the best part of that ginger tea is it helps to lose weight? Because honey is unique. Though honey is sweet, honey is also Ayurvedically very drying, so it helps to lose weight. Lot of people in India drink warm water and honey, which helps them to get into shape and get into balance. So ginger is one good herb. Second thing is maybe little black pepper. We are all used to adding salt and black pepper, but we talked about salt. But little bit of black pepper will also is pungent in nature, so that also helps. Third thing is garlic. People all know about garlic helps you to reduce your cholesterol, reduce your blood pressure, and all that. So garlic also improves your digestion and reduce the congestion. And in Ayurveda, we have a special formula is for 3-katu, and katu is a pungent. So combination of 3 pungent, one is ginger, second is black pepper, and third is unique herb in India. It's called pippali, that is for long pepper. And anybody have any digestive issues, we just give them like 1/4 teaspoon of this, and that improve their digestion. Lot of their digestive problems go away by this 3-katu. Do you remember when we were talking about vata? I told you 3 phala that helps you to cleanse well. So 3-katu improves your digestion, and 3 phala helps you to eliminate the waste better. So these two are the best Ayurvedic formulas for our health. And why they are the most important thing? Because any disease happens, that happens mainly because of our wrong digestion. So
Wonderful.
digestive system is kind of at the center of our whole health. In Ayurveda, we always focus more on improving people's digestion. So many of the diseases, it could be joint pain, it could be mind, it could be heart, it could be muscles, but we focus, it could be even psoriasis and acne and skin issues too. We always focus on digestion, and once we improve that, people start seeing the excellent results.
It is amazing that digestion is such a huge piece, and it really does help just a plethora of things.
Yeah.
So,
And these, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying it truly is amazing that when you work around fixing the digestion, how a lot of things go away.
Yeah, and we have a special spice mixture called kapha churna. So we just sell that in the bottle, and people just shake that on their food because they said we don't know all about this ginger and black pepper and all, how much to use and all that. So we have just kind of that shaker, and they just shake all that spice on their food, and the food becomes so tasty. And it's not only the taste of the food, but it makes us healthy because see, the obesity rate is increasing alarmingly. Diabetes rate is increasing, like millions of people having diabetes, like 25 million people having diabetes and all that. So for that, we really have to think about what goes in our system if we are digesting that food well and all that. And these simple spices we talk about, the cost is maybe 10 cents, 50 cents, but their effect on the body is like $100 or even more. Okay, so it is so listeners, it is very important that you should use the combination of all the spices and all that to improve your health.
Absolutely. So I would love to tell the audience that the combination he was talking about with lemon, ginger, warm water, honey. That's my morning. That's the first thing I start with, and it is so yummy. It is so delicious. It's so warming. It just is. So I encourage everyone to try that. We will put together an entire blog post that has little tips and tools, and it'll have the podcast and the video as well as the herbs she's talking about, so you can have your little recipes and the herbs. And we thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to hearing your questions, because if you give us questions, we know what to answer. So thank you so much for joining me once again, Dr. J.
Thank you. Thank you, Carly, and all the listeners. Have a great day.
We wish everyone a wonderful day, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great day, everyone.